answering your questions about retirement. It's Money Talk with Michael Eastham.
I own some bond funds in my portfolio, and I've watched them go up and down in value. My advisor said they are supposed to be less risky than stock funds. It makes me nervous, so I'd like to know why this happens. I can't afford to take a lot of risk.
Well, understanding why bond funds can fluctuate inside of your investments means that you need to understand the difference between an individual bond versus a bond fund. And you see, technically, bond funds are sold to be less risky than stock funds. And generally speaking, that's the case. But think about this for a second. If the stock market drops by 50% and your bond fund only drops by 35%, that's considered less risky, but you still lost 35%. Why did that happen? Well, understand why people invest in bonds to begin with is very important. And people want income, and that's one of the reasons that they want to invest in bonds. People also want to reduce their risks. Well, typically, when we have clients that want bonds inside of their portfolios, we use individual bonds because with an individual bond, you have two very important contracts. You have a contract for income, that's interest that's going to be paid out to you throughout the life of the bond. And then when the bond matures, you have a maturity date. So you get your principal back when that bond matures. Very important, because with a bond fund, you don't have either one of those contracts. In fact, by definition, a bond fund is the stock of a company that owns bonds. You see, you don't even own those bonds. That's a very important issue. And when you want to get income, then the way that you get income typically is by selling shares of the bond fund. Because even though bonds may provide a little bit more income than some stock funds, it's still not generally enough to make sure that your income needs are met. So if the market value is down, you're selling too many shares. You're eroding principal. That's where the risk comes in that most people aren't even aware of. Even when the market comes back, the value of those bond funds isn't typically going to come back either because you've sold those shares. So that's part of the reason why the volatility in bond funds affects you more than if you own the individual bonds. Because think about it. Even though a bond might go up and down in price during the life of that bond, if you hold the bond to maturity, you're going to get your principal back. That's the critical thing. And of course, you've got to make sure you diversify because there's no perfect investment. And every once in a while, you do have a bond that flops and you have a problem. That's why you don't want to have too much exposure to any one individual company. Keep that in mind as you're thinking about what's the proper placement of bonds inside of your retirement portfolio. Thanks for that question. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video so that you get upcoming and new content every week.